All right, guys, what's up? Welcome back to the Fantasy Slant Week 2. The weeks are rolling by, and the games are not slowing down. A lot of injuries, slowing people down, though. So we've got to talk about that and go into how you're going to adjust your fantasy playoff potential and get ready to make sure that you're continuing that ascension in the ranks to get to the playoffs. So we're going to run through things. John's running a little bit late. He is going to be jumping on, but I think right now he's racing back from the store with a new keyboard because he's decided that it didn't want to work this morning. So kind of like kind of like a lot of fantasy players last week decided they didn't want to work. So yeah, we got some big injuries to kind of go over as we're spooling up here within an hour of game time. So right now, Cordero Patterson's inactive. So big opportunity for Bjorn Robinson again. Tyler Algier probably steal a couple of big snaps like he did last week, which I'm sure made Robinson owners very, very happy. Mark Andrews is back and playing this week. So it's going to be interesting to watch that game and see see if Zay Flowers continues to be a primary target, or now with Mark Andrews, if he's going to fall off and it's going to go back to a regular Ravens type of timeshare there with wide receivers. Deontay Foreman's inactive, no big deal there. Chris Evans inactive. Christian Watson inactive again. That's not great for him. Romeo Doubs though did have a very nice week in his place, and Jordan Love looked real. I mean, amazing what 4 years behind a Hall of Fame quarterback will do, which we'll get into the travesty that happened there shortly. But big names. Aaron Jones inactive. That's a big one right out the gate. AJ Dillon. Hopefully you handcuffed if you have Aaron Jones with AJ Dillon because he's not very available otherwise. So yeah, that's going to be a big one. If you can get AJ Dillon, that's going to be nice. If you're playing DFS, AJ Dillon's going to be a nice play as well. And other big news, Travis Kelce's back. That's huge for Kansas City because they look absolutely lost without Travis Kelce. Clyde Edwards-Helaire will play, so that's going to be interesting to see how he cuts into Pacheco's running back touches. And I see Alex is here. Alex going to have to tell me what's going to happen now with Austin Eckler already missing time. That's tough. Joshua Kelly, I thought, looked pretty good. I know me and you were talking back and forth during that Miami Chargers game that was didn't work out your way the way we wanted it both to work out. But Joshua Kelly looked pretty good there at the end of the game when Eckler was kind of hurting. So interested to see how that's going to play out. Obviously, you can't replace Austin Eckler. He is an elite fantasy running back. So that hurts quite a bit, especially if you took him second overall. DeAndre Hopkins is playing afternoon games to keep an eye on. Brandon Cooks is questionable, but on the very doubtful side of that. Puka, after his huge game, is questionable, but most likely will be able to play. Breece Hall, always marked as questionable. He'll be good. And Devontae Parker in Sunday night's game is questionable. Probably doubtful. So that runs through the injuries. So make sure you guys are tracking that. If you've got those guys, get them out. And Alex got to sit Garrett Wilson this week, right? That Dallas front is going to murder Zach. I still think Zach Wilson's going to look to Garrett Wilson. You saw in the game last week when he came in, his eyes were going to Garrett Wilson quite a bit. I like him, but I do think I don't know what options you have better, so we'd have to run through that to sit Garrett Wilson. He's still going to be a primary target, and if you watch that game, like, he catches everything. So if the ball's thrown close to him, he's coming down with it. So I do think that they're going to lean a lot on the run and ease Zach back into things, especially with a very good defense in Dallas. But we're also going to see what that defense really looks like because the Giants were an absolute mess. I don't think the Giants had to do, or I don't think the Cowboys had to do very much last week. It was such an easy game for them to control that I don't know. The Giants just looked absolutely disastrous. So I would say if you have a slam dunk to put in for Garrett Wilson, if it's a 2 wide receiver league and you've got 3 starters, you could look at flexing him out of that. But if you're replacing him with a number 2 on a team, I'd probably just roll with the superstar. So um, Titans run defense was great last year. I wouldn't trust any Chargers running backs. Yeah, but they're still going to have to run. So Kelly is going to get the lion's share of that running game and probably checkdowns too. So I'm not saying he's a great start. I'm not going to say bench your top guys for him, but if you're starting a mid-level guy, it might be an upgrade there. So we will see on that one. Okay, so we didn't get to talk about the Jets game last week. I can't start this week without a moment of silence for Aaron Rodgers. Okay, thank you for that. That was, as a Jets fan, and I think everybody else can attest to, even if you're not a Jets fan, I would say a roller coaster of emotions in that game, right? I mean, you don't even have to be a Jets fan to see Aaron Rodgers go down on the 4th snap of the game for the year and not think, oh man. I mean, because again, Jets fan or not, you're excited to see superstar quarterbacks play. Aaron Rodgers is elite, doesn't matter. So yeah, it was really, really tough to watch that happen after the buildup, and we were all watching Hard Knocks and seeing that team come together, and I think everybody was excited to see what he was going to do. So that was tough to see. That was deflating. But the fact that team never wavered says a lot to me. Still gives me a lot of hope. That defense is very, very good. And I think a lot of people are sleeping on that now because Zach Wilson's at quarterback, focusing on that being a weakness, but forgetting that defense is really good and made Josh Allen look terrible. He struggled all day. And if they could make Josh Allen struggle, I think they're going to eat Dak alive this week because he does not. He's mobile, but he doesn't have Josh Allen's mobility. And if Josh Allen couldn't get away, I don't know many quarterbacks that are going to get away. So as much as we're going to get into that, like watching Zach Wilson come in with no practice, with no preparation, and be able to lead that team to a victory was very impressive. And it's going to go a long way to building that confidence that he can play. He made some very nice throws. He made one really bad interception, but after that, he looked pretty good. His throws were much better. He was completing short passes, which he couldn't do for the first 2 years. And he had some clutch 3rd down and long passes to keep drives going and getting into scoring position. So I'm encouraged to see. And as you guys all know, I am a unrelenting Zach Wilson apologist. So I still believe in his talent. He has been put in bad situations to start his career off, but I think the talent is there. It's just refining that. And Aaron Rodgers said he's going to be there in the booth with the headset on, helping Zach to continue to grow. So very, very encouraged by those situations. It's not exactly what you wanted to see. I don't think anybody wanted to see a season where Aaron Rodgers is gone. But I mean, maybe Dolphins fans and Patriots fans, I don't know. But great win overall. I mean, just an emotional roller coaster. It was fantastic game. I mean, one that I'm going to remember for a very, very long time, for good and for bad. So with that, let's start jumping into these games. I know you guys are patiently waiting. Again, get your questions in for what you're thinking, where you're stuck, and also make sure that you're subscribing if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button. Come back each week. Let's talk football. Let's talk fantasy. Let's have some fun before the game starts. So, uh, Packers at Falcons, both 1-0, which is it's kind of crazy to think that the Falcons are 1-0 and the Packers are 1-0, right? We weren't sure what Jordan Love was going to be, but it turns out he looks pretty damn good. Like I said earlier, sitting behind Aaron Rodgers for 4 years is going to help you become a better quarterback. So we've been rushing quarterbacks in. Alex, we've talked about this a lot personally. You rush quarterback in, everybody expects Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow out of every first round quarterback, and it doesn't work. We see it year in and year out, just quarterbacks failing and failing and failing because it's too big of a jump, I think, for most to do. So we see Jordan Love's progression over the years. Now he's coming in and looking really good. The Falcons, again, are a team that you're going to have to keep an eye on. It's really hard still to put your finger on what they really are, right? The defense is okay. The offense has some weapons. They're being used weird. Drake London had no catches, right? Like last week, no fantasy production. Robinson looked good, but then Algier came in and stole some touchdowns and some work as well. So, you draft a guy number 8 overall and you don't utilize him. Doesn't make much sense to me. The whole Kyle Pitts situation there is weird. So the talent is there. The utilization isn't. So we got to really keep an eye on that. It's hard to recommend people outside of Robinson. Drake London could have a 3 touchdown game or he could have a 1 catch game. So it's really hard to say how that is going to work there. So keep an eye on it. Obviously start your stud if you've got Robinson. If you've got better options for Drake, I would probably consider it. And Kyle Pitts, I don't know. You're probably not going to have a better tight end. So you're probably starting Kyle Pitts and hoping that they decide that he is worth throwing the ball to. On the Packers side, with Watson out and with Aaron Jones out, that's going to be really tough. Romeo Doubs going to continue to probably take the lion's share there of the work. So if you've got Dobbs, I mean, he's elevated to the number 1 spot right now. So that's a great fit. The Falcons defense is okay, but not great. They are projecting a relatively low scoring game here, which I don't necessarily agree with. But yeah, I like Jordan Love this week. I like Dobbs and I like Dillon. I think all 3 of them are playable for fantasy. And they got a 40-point over-under, which, taking a look, is almost the lowest. Couple late games, Giants, Cardinals, Commanders, Broncos, both under 40, which is insane. So one of the lowest scoring games, and I think that would not be a wise bet to take the under on there. Atlanta is the 3-point favorite at home. I'm going to take the Packers going 2-0 here. And I think the over is a much better spread here. The Packers defense is good, but the Falcons, I don't know. So I think, it'd be pretty easy to see even a 24-21 game would give you that one. So next up, Raiders traveling up to Buffalo to take on the Bills. The 0-1 Bills, by the way, let me just emphasize that a little bit. The 0-1 Bills. They like them apples. So the Raiders somehow 1-0. That's not going to continue, right? So Buffalo's a 7.5-point favorite. They're going to be a very, very angry team. The Raiders, I don't trust Jimmy G. Of course, Devontae Adams is a beast. And Josh Jacobs is a very good running back. Outside of that, I think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to get eaten alive by that Bills defense. He's not a running quarterback, and they are going to just swarm him. So Josh Allen bounces back this week. Must start, in my opinion, in this one. I think he's going to play much better. And if you remember last year, Josh Allen kind of got off to a weird start as well, where he was making stupid mistakes and doing really weird things, and people were starting to question that. And he's got to get his head right. But I think against the Raiders, that's like a very nice get right game. So I like the Bills 47 point. This is actually, we went from the lowest to almost the highest, but this one is up there at 47 points. Buffalo 7.5 point favorites. Not a crazy spread there. I do think the Bills will win this one by probably 10. So like that one. Give me the Bills. Give me all your starters in this one are solid plays all around. Alex, Dameon Pierce or Jamal Williams. Whew. Okay, so you're in a fun situation there. Pierce against the Colts, which you do kind of like. The Colts to me are a mess, and they're going to be all year. They are going to be an absolute mess, and it's good to see that the Texans and Colts, somebody's going to win a game today. So that's really nice. And then Williams, they are playing the Panthers. Panthers have a pretty decent defense. That is a low scoring projected game at 39.5. Jamal Williams, of course, with Detroit last year, crushed in the goal line situations and just racked up touchdowns because they hate DeAndre Swift. And I'm starting to hate DeAndre Swift too for his antics, where I start him last week and get 0.8 points. And then this week he rushes for 200 or 170 yards, something like that, which I in turn benched him because it's like, I don't know why everybody hates DeAndre Swift, but they do. No, apparently it's just they wait for me to bench him, and then he goes ballistic. So thank you, Eagles. Thank you. Fly, Eagles, fly right into a cliff. But back to your question, I would probably go with Dameon Pierce in this one. The Panthers defense is good, but the Colts are just a mess. And you've got rookie quarterbacks going in that game. You're going to want to kind of just get the pressure off of those guys and limit what they're going to do in this one. So I kind of like the workload for Pierce. I don't know about the Saints. That's a tough one, but I would go Pierce in this one just because the matchup is so favorable against the Colts. He could really break off some big ones. So next up, Ravens at the Bengals. Can we talk about the Bengals for a second after I take this drink? I want you to just kind of think about what happened last week. All right, so week 1, the Bengals played so bad that they pulled Joe Burrow in the fourth quarter. They just gave up in the game against a division rival. Gave up, that blows my mind. Absolutely blows my mind. I don't understand how this offense can function so badly coming out the gate, but they looked terrible. I don't know if the Browns defense is that good because they didn't really change much in the offseason. So that was a weird start. That's going to be one to watch. It's really going to be one to watch. Figure out what's going on because it doesn't make sense. That shouldn't have happened. The Ravens, on the other hand, they won their game pretty easily. And like we said, Mark Andrews is back again. They lost J.K. Dobbins again. Probably, I mean, at this point, you got to guess his career is just kind of done. Like knees, Achilles. I mean, what else can you do? So, stop while you could walk, man. Just it sucks, but man, you got to live the rest of your life still. So, but yeah, Ravens, it's going to be a big Mark Andrews game. He's one of the best tight ends in the game, and obviously Lamar Jackson's favorite person in the whole entire world. So that's going to be a good one. The Bengals have to bounce back on this, but the Ravens defense is still good. So they're going up against back-to-back really good defenses. And what does that do to the Bengals if they get destroyed again, right? If that offense can't move the ball again, does confidence start to waver? Do things come off the rails? Does Joe Burrow start forcing things and making mistakes? Like This is going to be one to watch because this could really change the trajectory of the Bengals season if they come out looking like they did again last week. So um, it's going to be a fun one to watch. Bengals at home, 45 points over under. Cincy is a 3.5 point favorite in this one. I mean, everything in me says take the Bengals at home, but I'm going to say the Ravens go in and win this game until I see the Bengals get right. It just I don't know that too much questions. I wouldn't put money on this game at all, but I mean, you're going to start your Bengals. You're going to start Burrow. You're going to start Chase. I started T. Higgins last week and got that big old fat goose egg. I'm going to stick with him. I think there's too much talent there, but I think the Ravens will find a way to win this game for some reason. So we'll see. Yeah, Alex, obviously underrated hire there for the Browns defensive coordinator. That is an understatement because they looked pretty fierce. So they got things together, and I didn't know Cleveland could get things together, but they found a way to do it. So that's awesome. Good for you, Cleveland, Ohio. All right, so let's keep rolling here. So next up, the 0-1 Seahawks against the 1-0 Detroit Lions. So the Seahawks, again, another team like we just talked about with the Bengals, they should have been able to handle LA pretty easily at home opening the season. They looked lost, absolutely lost. I saw a thing where DK Metcalf wasn't even going full speed, which I didn't get into the full article, but I was just kind of reading where he was apologizing for not going all out and said it wasn't going to happen again. I'm like, this is week one, gentlemen. Like this, you're not going full speed in week one. You're not giving your all to win a division game at home to start the season. Like, I don't know what's going on. Well, I'm here. I shouldn't say up there. I don't know what's going on in Seattle, but that is not a good look. And DK Metcalf is a beast, an absolute beast at a wide receiver. But for you to not go all out against a division rival that you should be able to handle without much worry at all, it makes no sense to me. The Lions, on the other hand, absolutely ferocious Lions. You see what I did there? They looked fantastic against Kansas City to open the year. This is a young team. It's a hungry team. Jared Goff, man, resurrected, kicked out of LA, sent up to Michigan, and he is leading that team. Amon-Ra St. Brown is going to be one of the best wide receivers in football. Very, very good. Their running game is going to be something to keep an eye on. I feel like Gibbs should have had a much, much larger role, especially when you're taking him in the first round. So I thought that situation was weird that David Montgomery was getting so many carries as opposed to the young kid that is explosive. I mean, I'm sure you guys watched that game. When he got the ball, it was like he was shot out of a cannon. I mean, just his acceleration is like he's like a Tesla, like 0 to 60, and you don't even hear it. So it's crazy. It's just gone. So I'm going to be watching that a lot and seeing how they redistribute the carries in Detroit because Gibbs needs to have that ball. He really, really does. I questioned taking him in the first round, but watching his carries, man, whew, I mean, that kid could be absolutely phenomenal. So, so this is a game where I'm going to say I think the Seahawks are going to go 0-2. I think the Lions are for real. They're at home. Their defense is, of course, questionable, but I think at this point, so is the Seahawks. So give me the home team in this one. I do think there will be a good amount of scoring, but I think the Lions take it, go 2-0, and knock the Seahawks to 0-2. That's crazy to even say. So yeah, let's jump back over. Let's talk a little bit. Alex, I don't know how I feel about that. I like the hype and the importance right out the gate of playing division guys and having that. But I do really like kind of loading those division games on the backside more because you are coming into everything, right? And now with how soft the preseason has gotten, and training camps have gotten, like you see the lag that teams have coming out the gate, right? Like we didn't see any really high scoring games. We didn't see a lot of shootouts. We saw a lot of mistakes in week 1. You're going to see less mistakes this week. You're going to see fewer mistakes week 3. And by week 4, everybody's going to be running full speed. So having division games up front is fun for the excitement factor. But I agree with you. They're very important games. And these teams are just not looking that great out the gates for the last couple of years. Ever since they changed the rules on how training camp was run, you see the lag that the players have, and it does have a big effect. So yeah, I think they should probably look at pushing those division games more to the backside of the schedule. But then you also run into the fact that injuries start to really accumulate at that point. And do you want to be playing with with most of your big guys out? You know what I mean? You can't predict injuries, but obviously the more games you play, the higher the chances of injury. So I don't know what the right answer is there, but it's definitely questionable. So all right. Let's keep rolling through this. So next up, Alex, I'm glad you're still here. Let's talk about you a little bit here. Chargers at the Titans, both 0-1. Chargers should not be 0-1, but again, the Chargers keep doing their Chargers things year in and year out and not winning games that they should be winning. So they should have had that game against Miami. They let it get away. The Titans, though, I mean, we've been talking Titans for 3 years now. They shouldn't be good. And I think you're starting to see that they're not, right? So Derrick Henry is still he's a bowling ball, and he's very, very hard to compete with, right? I mean, he is their strength. If you stop that, you stop the Titans. DeAndre Hopkins is playing this week, so that's going to be interesting to watch to see if anything can get started in the air. I just feel like this game, it is an early game. They are traveling cross country for the Chargers. Do they start slow? I don't know, but I think the Chargers offense and defense, even without Eckler, is still better than the Titans. So I say you start Herbert, you start your wide receivers. I would start Kelly in this as well. So I think they're all starts. Hopkins, man, I mean, he's a number 3 at this point until he proves otherwise. So if you've got 2 better options there, definitely take it. And you're starting Derrick Henry. And that's about it on the Titans side of this ball. But yeah, the Chargers, I think, are going to, this has to be a get right game. They need to walk out of here, not 2.5 point favorites. They need to walk out of here, with a nice 15-point victory type of thing. Like they need to make, they need to put a little exclamation point between this game and week 1 to just kind of get the ship going in the right direction. So Silly has no excuses. His scheme was trash last week. He has wanted 0 excuses. Net up or shut up. Yeah. And that's tough too, Alex, because that's one thing that the Chargers do way too much, I think, is change leadership positions. And that's really, really difficult for teams to overcome because you've got to keep learning new schemes and you've got to learn new coaches and what they want and how they operate. And, once you start getting comfortable in something, it's uprooted and it's uprooted and it's uprooted and you're starting from scratch. So, you got to give it time. You've got to give these guys time to grow, it's hard to say when you've got Justin Herbert and you've got, a team of young, talented people, but the Jets are in the same situation, but you've got to give solid time to grow and become a good head coach. You've got to give quarterbacks time to develop, to become good quarterbacks. I mean, any job even outside of football, if you don't give people the opportunity to develop and just fire them when they fail, you're just going to continue to keep firing people. So, you got to you got to take the lumps. You've got to let them learn, but they do have to learn. They have to show that, like, hey, I made this mistake, but it's not going to happen again. So we'll see if they do that. But that's going to be something to watch as we go forward. But I do think the Chargers get right in this game. And speaking of get right, it looks like our favorite Patriot fan has just jumped in here. So let's bring in old John B for the first time this year. Johnny Borman.
Gee, how you doing, buddy? Can you hear me?
Good. I can hear you loud and clear.
All right. Excellent.
So, good.
Excellent.
I think all the fans are happy to see you too, so they don't have to listen to me rambling away anymore. So
talk about the Jets.
Well, I don't know if you could. I don't think my eyes are still red from all the tears from the beginning of the show, but
yeah, that's
crazy. So yeah, we're just finishing up. Rolling through the 10 o'clock games. So, yeah, it was a fun game to watch. So, for the Jets, broke my heart, but also elated as well. So, all right. So, we just wrapped up the Chargers and Titans on the schedule. So we're rolling on to the Bears against the Buccaneers. Tampa 2.5 point favorites in this one. It's at home for Tampa. Oh, hey, Dina.
Hello, Dina.
And
how are you?
Yeah, Justin Field and the Bears heading down there. So, okay, we'll make sure that we get down to the Fins here because you guys got the Sunday night game. So
yes, we do.
We will make it. We're steamrolling ahead. So I'm curious to see. I know you're a huge Justin Fields fan, and I've kind of, for fantasy purposes, I actually drafted him in a couple leagues because of his legs that he didn't use last week. So I'm holding with him again. But what do you think? What happened last week? Is Justin Fields, is this Bears team just a disaster? Or was
I think the Bears team is still just a disaster, to be quite honest. Hey, Alex, how are you? I don't think it's his last chance because this is really the first time they've put anybody around him. You know, last year they really didn't have anybody. They didn't have any wide receivers. To me, they still don't have a good running back. I'm not a fan of their running game. Their O-line is young and learning. And I just don't think they're there. I think the Bears are honestly a couple years away. I think we were texting back and forth last weekend about that too. Chicago just doesn't look good. And I don't know if they told him to stay in the pocket and pass more or run less. I don't know, but or he didn't have the chance. But I think Tampa's going to give him a lot of problems. Their defense looked good last week against Minnesota. I hate to say it, and you know how I feel about Baker Mayfield.
I think we all do.
God, yeah. I absolutely hate him, but I actually took him in my DraftKings league, pairing him up with Mike Evans because I think he's going to absolutely shred that defense. They're playing in Tampa. It's warm. I don't think this is going to be a good game for Chicago at all, especially the way Tampa's defense looked last week. I think Chicago's still missing a running back. I know they were trying to trade for Taylor, and I'm willing to bet if there's another mediocre offensive performance through not only Fields but the running game, I bet you whatever Indy was asking for Taylor, that absurd price, they may want to think about doing it and then just re-signing him because that Bears team just didn't look good last week. Alex, I'm good. I agree with you, but to me, you can't give up on a quarterback yet when you can't even fix your O-line.
Yeah. Yeah, his throwing is still sketchy in that one, right? His legs have been, like I felt like the reason I drafted him is because it looked like he was taking the same career trajectory as Josh Allen did.
Yeah.
Because the first 2 years, Josh Allen couldn't throw the ball to save his life. It was just run. Right. And then the game looked like it started to slow down a little bit, and then you got to see his arm actually start to show off when they respected the fact that he could take off and run for 40-yard touchdowns.
Right.
And I felt like that's what you were starting to see with Justin Fields, except for he was breaking off 80-yard touchdowns runs, So it's like, all right, they have to respect the run. That should open up a little bit of passing for him, but we didn't see it last week. And of course, like I was saying right before you came on, we were talking about having division games scheduled early and how sloppy teams look out the gate. And like, is it a good idea to have a really important division game in week 1 when teams just look so out of sync because of how the preseason has changed? And you're seeing that. That's, and we talked about the Bengals also pulling Joe Burrow in the fourth quarter of a division game in week 1, like blows my mind. Right. So that's all these,
because they're not doing anything in the preseason. And we were texting then. So, I mean, are we really seeing true teams the first 3 weeks? I don't know.
Yeah. That's what I was saying. Week 4 is when you actually feels like you start to see the actual team come to life. Yeah. And if you're playing 2 division games in the first 4 weeks and you lose both of them because you're not on sync or in sync yet, now you're down 0-2 in a division. That's not a good position to be in, So that was an interesting one. But yeah, I think I'm going to take Tampa at home as well. 2.5 point spread. I don't think Vegas I feel like they're kind of on the same thing as us. Is what is Justin Fields going to do, right? Because Justin Fields could win that game by himself as well. Right. So yeah, Vegas is keeping it at 2.5. But yeah, I'm going to take the Bucs as well. But I don't really love anybody in this game. I mean, Baker. I mean that might not be a bad play from a DFS standpoint because I don't think a lot of people are going to be looking at Baker Mayfield. So that's a smart DFS play. But otherwise, like for regular fantasy, man, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I couldn't take him in regular fantasy, like because I targeted Barkley today. I targeted Mike Evans, Calvin Ridley. I targeted because I think they're gonna have to score a lot of points. So I went high, so I had to go low on the quarterback, and I just figured against the Bears.
Yeah,
why not? But I hate Mayfield. I absolutely hate him. And I would probably go Jordan Love if he had somebody to throw to besides Dobbs.
Well, if Baker Mayfield ends up taking home first place for you in DFS, I'm going to be interested to see how much you hate him.
I'll
next week.
I'll never not hate him.
All right. Well, speaking of Calvin Ridley, let's talk about the Chiefs Jaguars. Probably, not probably, the highest over/under on the slate this week at 50.5, and KC is a 3.5 point favorite. So it looks like Vegas is trying to get people to bet the Jaguar side still, right, and bring that spread down a little bit. But I'm excited to see this game. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is legit. That Jaguars offense looks very, very nice. Still not using Travis Etienne the way they should be. I don't understand why they hate him. I really don't. I thought it was just like what was his name that got fired? Doug
Peterson? No.
No. He's the coach there now.
Doug Moret? No.
Somebody help me out here. But anyway.
Samsonite.
Yeah. Damn it. Ohio State coach. What the hell's his name? Anyway, it matters not. He is gone. But
he was at Florida too.
Yeah. Urban Meyer. Thank you.
Jesus, thank you.
Yeah, you get stuck in that loop in your head and you're just like, bleh. I thought maybe it was just him. Like he's just like, oh, well, I drafted Travis Etienne, but I hate him. So I just want to bench him, right? Maybe he did him wrong at Ohio State. But no, apparently it carries on. So they should probably look to trade Travis Etienne to the Bears, maybe. I don't know. So somebody could use him. But I love Travis Etienne. I think he's an absolute money running back. He's Austin Eckler that doesn't get hurt. He might get hurt if he actually got carries. I don't know. But he's the same type of running back. And they don't use him. It makes no sense to me. So what I'm interested to see, and I'm curious, and you're probably going to mirror me on this one, but the Chiefs, is that going to be a completely different team with Travis Kelce, or Absolutely. the Jaguars going to just double and triple Kelce and make Tony try to beat them? I mean, that's what I would do. because you saw how badly they looked without Travis Kelce. He is the Chiefs.
He is. And you know what? They've been double and triple teaming Kelce since Tyreek Hill left. And he still goes absolutely nuts. So,
yeah.
With a healthy Kelce, would I pick the Jags over Kansas City? It's hard to. But the fact that it's in Jacksonville, but also, is Mahomes really going to go 0-2? I don't know. I can't. I'm not betting against Mahomes.
How healthy is Kelce? Is he 100%? He's active, but if I have a hard time believing that he couldn't play last week and now he's 100%.
Right.
So is he full?
I think the Jags can pull it off this week. I can. But I mean, I wouldn't put any money on it. I just like to see the Jags beat them. Will they truly? I guess we'll see here in a couple hours. But
yeah,
if you get Travis Kelce, you have to play him. I wouldn't buy him in DFS, but you got to obviously play him in your home leagues. But somebody else has to step up. Are they going to give Tony another chance this week? Which I think you have to, right? Because week one again, take out week one. I've never seen more of a bad experience or performance by a wide receiver than Tony that week. I mean, he just dropped his blatantly hitting his hands.
Old stone hands Tony. Or should we just call him Kadarius Stoney?
Kadarius Stoney hands. But I mean, let's face it. The Giants let him go for a reason, right? So if the Giants let a wide receiver go, and they have no wide receivers,
is he really a wide receiver?
I mean, come on, let's.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
Nobody there, so I mean, why everybody was predicting Tony to explode is beyond me. So I don't know. I think Jacksonville will win today, but because of the team that they are, the offense that they have. But I'll tell you what. I mean, Mahomes, he keeps them in games with no one. He's honestly like Tom Brady. It doesn't matter who they have. I mean, they won a Super Bowl the year after getting rid of Tyreek. So that obviously tells you exactly who's the main focal point of the offense, which we all know anyways.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said. But like you, I'm leaning on the Jaguars. I don't know why, but it just feels like they don't have Mahomes, but I feel like they have better weapons everywhere except for tight end.
Yep.
So I'm gonna get the Jaguars the win at home, and the Chiefs are gonna go 0-2.
Yep.
I can't believe I'm saying that.
I can't either, but I think it's very realistic.
Yeah, it could very well be. This is going to be crazy. All right, so these next couple ones, I think we could kind of just cruise through to get to your game, because the afternoon slate outside of mine is terrible. So Colts and Texans. We talked about this. You might start Damian. I told Alex, so you can answer this as well. He asked Dameon Pierce or Jamal Williams. I went with Pierce against the Colts. Williams is playing against the Panthers Monday night. I don't know with the Saints situation. The Panthers, again, not great teams, but I just felt like the Colts, for me, the Colts are so bad that just feels like a game where they're going to take it off CJ Stroud and give put more on the running game and just beat up the Colts. But I mean, not great situations. And
the Colts are just like Tennessee, where they can stop the run but not the pass. But I mean, in New Orleans, I think the rookie's playing this week, so it's not a one-man show for Jamal. So I'd probably flip a coin, and honestly, the better running back is Pierce. I'd probably go Pierce, but I mean, I wouldn't expect more than 10, 11 points.
Yeah, maybe a touchdown and 40 yards,
maybe
50 yards, something like that. But I mean, the Colts, I mean, Richardson looked okay with his legs, but I mean, this is a game where you're just avoiding it. It's an even line. Vegas doesn't care.
Right.
40 points. They went almost as low as they could. It's just a game you're kind of avoiding it. I think Pierce is probably the only spot that you would start anybody of significance in this. Maybe Michael Pittman wide receiver.
Yeah, I would probably
wide
start
receiver
Pittman
3
because he has to throw. And Pittman had a great game last week, and it seems like that chemistry's already there between them two. So
yeah, that would be my only 2 targets from each side would be Pierce and Pittman, and leave that one alone. 49ers and Rams, start all your 49ers. Just start them all and just forget about it. Don't worry about Debo. The Rams seem to be one of those teams where they just take turns.
Right.
So last week was Brandon Ayuk. So everybody's going to start Brandon Ayuk. He's going to have 1 catch for 5 yards. Debo's going to have 6 catches, 120 yards, and 57 rushing yards with 3 total touchdowns in this game. Right. So, I mean, that's just the way it's going to work. But the Rams side, Puka's questionable. Keep an eye on him. See if he keeps up that big timeshare with Kupp being out. But outside of that, it's just leave the Rams alone from a fantasy perspective. 49ers should just run all over them, right? Run past everything.
Keyword should.
But the Seattle couldn't do it either. So
no,
we'll see on that one. But I think we're both taking the Niners.
Yep.
And 7 points, I would still probably place the money on that one.
Absolutely.
49ers should manhandle them. Giants, Cardinals. Avoid the Cardinals at all cost. Giants.
I think the Giants are going to steamroll them today. I think it's going to be the Saquon Barkley show. I mean, they were handing them the rock a lot against Dallas. It's just when you're down by that much and you know who's going to get the ball, it's hard to defend. But I think it's a Barkley day. I'm going with Barkley and Dillon and a lot of DFS. So especially with Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones. Yep. Yeah, Barkley's my only point of interest in this game, and really the only thing I care about. And I agree, the Giants win this one. If the Cardinals win a game this year, it's going to be because of Kyler Murray when he gets back and his legs, but it's not going to be a fun season for Arizona.
No, not at all.
And then Commanders, Broncos, again, a game that I'm not really interested in. The only thing I'm interested to see is does Javonte Williams continue to increase his workload in there and become a viable number 1 running back. That's what I'm going to keep an eye on. He looked good coming off that ACL, MCL repair from last year, faster than I thought, and he looked pretty good. But now, can he continue? Can he continue to grow that? Give me the Broncos at home against the Commanders.
Yeah, and they got Judy back, so that's going to be Judy and Sutton. I think that's a pretty good combo right there.
Yeah, I like that one. All right, so let's talk, before we get to yours, let's talk Jets Cowboys. Both 1-0, both elite defenses, I think we could say. Both have great running games. Both have great wide receivers. One of them now has a great quarterback. Nah, maybe not great. I wouldn't
even say Dak's a great
one of them has a more seasoned quarterback than the other.
Yes.
So, so I started off the show talking about that Monday night game, and I don't think anybody wanted to see what we saw.
Right.
Nobody wants to see Aaron Rodgers go down. They just don't, especially if you're following Hard Knocks and, you're watching him with this team, this young team, and grow and develop and, the relationships and everything. And you were excited to see what he was going to do with this second chance, and to have it taken away 4 plays into a game, into the season, not into a game, into the season it's a travesty. It's the Jets. I mean, that's just the Jets.
It truly was.
But then to see, like I said when I was talking about it, to see them never quit. That defense never quit. The offense kept pushing. They never wavered for a second. And they battled back against one of the best quarterbacks and one of the best teams in the league. So for me, like that was something uplifting, right? That was something that gave me hope that with Zach back there, they could still beat one of the best teams in the league. And they're going to have a huge challenge this week as well, because the Cowboys defense, the one thing I did caveat this with is I don't know if the Cowboys defense is as good as it looked last week, because the Giants looked terrible. That defense didn't have to do much because the Giants couldn't do anything. Right. So are the Cowboys defense as good as it looked, or was that just a direct reflection of how bad the Giants offense looked? So that's kind of like this week you're going to see a lot, especially at home for Dallas. That's a huge focal point for me. Is the Jets defense, I think, is 100% what you saw against Josh Allen. Josh Allen couldn't run. Josh Allen couldn't throw. He was smothered, had no time to do anything. Jets defense to me is going to keep them again in games all year. But I mean, you tell me what you think from an outside perspective.
So from outside, I seen a stat line that had Josh Allen's last 6 games compared to Russell Wilson's last 6 games. And, Josh Allen has worse numbers. So this is a carryover from last year. I mean, it truly is. This is a carryover from last year. So I do agree. I think the Jets have a top 5 defense. I also think the Cowboys have a top 5 defense. So, where is it going to lie? I think the Cowboys with Brandon Cooks out today, I think that hurts Dallas a lot. I truly do. The Jets, of course, you still get Garrett Wilson. I still don't trust Zach. I just don't. I know he looked okay in the second half, but that O-line of the Jets is not good, man. It's just not good. And
I know.
I would bum rush 8 players all game and take my chances with Zach Wilson beating me instead of one of the running backs. Because quite honestly, it's in Dallas. It's a tough place to play. But this is also a game that Dallas can easily lose. I just see it being like a 13-10 type game for Dallas, or 17-10, where it's super close. And Dallas is, to me, what I think is going to happen is Dallas is going to put themselves in a good position with the Zach Wilson mistake and potentially score from it. And I don't see the Jets winning. I think the Jets defense, I agree with you wholeheartedly. As much as I hate saying it, I think the Jets defense will keep them in games all year. After watching them against Buffalo, they shut them down. But I don't see them beating Dallas, but I didn't see them beating Buffalo either with Zach Wilson. So I just think you're looking at a totally different – Cowboys have a great offensive line. So I think Dak's going to get a lot of not a lot of time to throw, but who's he going to throw to? And my thing is, Joe, why isn't Sauce lining up on the number 1 wide receiver? I don't get that. So if they line up CeeDee Lamb on the other side, it's a mistake. It truly is.
Well, I mean, DJ Reed is also a top cornerback. So I know that they don't move him.
Right.
Yeah, they don't move him because they're confident. They're confident in their 1 and 2.
Get it, but boy, if all you have is CeeDee Lamb to throw to, put Sauce on him.
Yeah, and we
saw don't get it, man.
You saw that with Josh Allen. I mean, in that last drive, they started with Sauce on Diggs. Diggs had that pass interference call that brought it back. After that, he went to the other side of the field.
Yeah.
And he was getting completions on DJ Reed. So I think they are going to have to consider moving Sauce, I think, eventually, but I think they don't want to rush him into that, which is probably smart too. But I think there's a lot of good weapons in this game. A lot of good fantasy players in this game, and it's one that I
would stay away from all of them though because of the defenses. So
the defense is going to be tough, but
so like today, my son calls me and he goes, "Hey, Dad, should I start Garrett Wilson?" Now he took him in the second round, or Dotson for Washington. I said, "Man, you got to look at the matchup." I go, "I don't know if I could sit my second round pick, but because of the matchup, I may consider it. Because here's the thing: who's going to be on him? It's going to be Diggs." You know what I mean? Because Diggs will go to the number 1. Yeah. And I'm sorry, I don't like the other Jets receivers. They're great number 3s. But you shut down Wilson, you're probably going to shut down that offense.
I just don't know if you can.
I couldn't give him an answer of whether to take Wilson out because I would have a really hard time with that. But
stick with your studs.
You almost have
to.
You almost have to because they're going to make something happen. But I just think the defenses are too good.
Yeah. Alex asked that question too. Do you bench Garrett Wilson? It's like, who do you have that's better?
Right.
Like you saw the catch he made. That touchdown catch was absolutely incredible. Who can do that in the league? How many other wide receivers can make that catch? I mean, he's that good that
you just look at his numbers from last year between Wilson, White, and Flacco. I mean, he put up good numbers for
1,100 yards.
Quarterbacks. Yes.
So
it's like, why not? He was elite.
So
you know what I mean? Why not do it?
All right, so let's wrap this one. I say start the Jets running backs in this one. Cooks and Hall, I think, are both going to eat. But outside of that, start your studs and leave the rest alone, and start both defenses. I'm going to take my Jets to go 2-0 in a very tight game.
I
think
you're
going
would.
Cowboys.
I am going Cowboys.
All right, let's get to your game. Dolphins at Patriots. Take it away.
So I loved how Mac looked last week. After the kind of the first half of the first quarter, he settled down. They got Bourne playing a lot. They're getting Devontae Parker back, which I think is going to be his jump ball guy. I just don't think we can score enough points to beat Miami. Only because I mean, who's going to stop Tyreek Hill? I don't care what defense you're talking. Jets, Patriots, Cowboys. I think those are some of the three of the best defenses in the league, to be quite honest, along with San Francisco. But who's going to stop Tyreek Hill if he has even a half a step on somebody and he catches a slant? There's no one that can. I think if anybody can figure out a way, it'll be Belichick. We haven't had that much luck against Miami, and I'll tell you what, Tua is accurate. I mean, I picked Tua from the beginning of the season that if Miami stays healthy, the Dolphins will win the division. I truly think that. I thought the Jets would be second. Now I'd put them third. But I can't see how the Patriots win this one. Maybe a turnover that they return it back for. I think it's going to be a little bit higher scoring than what everybody thinks, because I love Mac Jones this year. I love how he came out and he was throwing the ball in the second half the way I would hope he is. So hopefully he can build from that. So I don't think the Patriots are going to win this week, but I think it's going to be a close game. But I just don't think we can score enough points to beat Miami, because that offense. I mean, look at what were they 8-0 last year when Tua was playing, and then they couldn't really win after that. Man, I mean, Tua just does nothing but win. And I'm sorry, some of the throws downfield he made were pretty damn good last week. So, and the good thing is he doesn't have to throw them downfield, because there's two receivers that can break open. So, I hate to say Miami, but I'm a realist. But I hope that the Pats defense can pull something out.
I have a hard time with this because I agree with a lot of what you just said. And I think I was watching a lot of I was going, Alex, I don't know if he's still in here, but me and Alex were going back and forth on this Dolphins-Chargers game last week because the Chargers should have won that game. And they just kept letting the Dolphins come back in and trying to single cover Tyreek Hill, which you can't do. There's like two corners in the league that could probably run with Tyreek, and that's it. So double him, put a safety over the top to cover up. But they just kept giving him space to make huge 40-yard plays, 50-yard play, 30-yard play. I was like, oh my God. He's his own weapon. He's just ridiculous. But so is Bill Belichick. And I hate him. I hate him with every fiber of my being. But from a defensive standpoint, he comes up with schemes that nobody's ready for. He just does. And I mean, as a Jets fan, every year, it's like he comes up with something to take out the number one guy, and that's Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
And if he could take Tyreek Hill out, they still have Jalen Waddle, which is a very nice target as well. So I really like Waddle in this game, but I think it's going to be an absolute it's not going to be a blowout. I just don't see it happening. And being at home, I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Patriots find a way to win this game. I don't like even picking this game. The Dolphins, I think, have more talent. I'm going to pick the Dolphins in this one. But when the final score pops up and the Patriots win 24-21, I'm not going to be shocked at all, because Bill Belichick in division games, he just finds a way.
He's good. He is.
And the other side of this, if you go into the second half and this game is 13-10 or 14-14, the Dolphins are going to start doing what every other team does, and they're going to start pushing, and they're going to start making mistakes. They're going to get greedy. They're going to go for it on a 4th and short and get stopped, and the momentum's going to shift. And next thing you know, they're going to be playing catch up. I mean, that's just what you see year in and year out. And it just happens, and especially more in our division than outside of our division, because it's Bill Belichick and the Patriots, and you have to beat them. You have to beat Bill, and you can't give Bill another chance, and then you make stupid mistakes. And then Bill just calmly stands back there with that god-awful little smirk on his face, and just everything just unwinds. I hate it. So,
I mean, but yeah, I hope you're right, Joe. I do. And Bill Belichick always comes up with something.
Yeah.
I just think they're clicking on a different level in Miami. You're right. The Chargers gave that game away, I think, honestly, last week. I mean, I not gave it away. I mean, they scored the points, but let's face it, the Chargers are always going to figure out a way to lose.
Mm-hmm.
And I was telling somebody, I think it was my son yesterday, if the Pats can keep it close into the fourth quarter, I like our chances of winning a whole lot better. But it has to be close going into the fourth. That's when Belichick will beat you.
Yeah. Agreed. But for the sake of our show, I'll take the Dolphins to win this one just off of a talent basis.
I mean, I hate to, but I mean, I'm being a realist too. I can't.
Yeah. Yep. But I don't expect it to be a blowout, and I don't really know if it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think Bill's going to find a way to keep that offense kind of slowed down.
Yep.
So 46, I'd probably take the under on.
I would too.
Division game in Foxborough, it doesn't feel like.
I'm surprised it's even that high. I thought it was going to be lower. That's why I said I thought they'd score more points, but I guess like a 21-20, 24-21. Yeah, that probably sounds about right. That's what I was thinking.
Okay. Well, we'll see how it plays out tonight for sure, but that should be a fun one to watch.
It will.
Cool.
It will.
So that's it. Morning games are, unless you're on the East Coast, early afternoon games are starting, but so that's it for the week. Best of luck to you. Best of luck to your teams. Hopefully we help with some fantasy advice. If not, thank you for stopping by and at least talking football with us. Appreciate all of you guys. And John, glad you got the keyboard fixed and could jump on with me.
All good now. All good.
Cool. All right, guys. Until next Sunday, have a great week and great football season. We'll talk